Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too. It's been a long time.
It was I was so delighted when you replied to our email. So for those of you watching this, we I emailed just 10 people. 10 people who I'd met a long time ago just to test it because I've gained about 2,000 records and I thought I'd just email 10 and see. So I picked up 10 that I remembered. And hopefully they remembered us. And then you replied to the email. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. How could I forget you?
Well, people will normally say the opposite. So that's good. We'll dig into that in a moment. So, what this is, Anthony, and for those of you now watching, this is our very first podcast that we're doing. So, we're going to call them Channel Chats from Channel Guru. And the intent is purely just to represent you. Right? We really want to be a voice of the tech partner industry, get your brand out there, and learn what's happening in the market so we can better support and work with vendors to support you as well. So I'd love to maybe introduce yourself, Anthony. Tell me a little bit about yourself, not the work stuff, the more exciting stuff. Who's Anthony outside of work?
Hey. Well, that's kind of hard because this is my life. But of course, listen, my name's Anthony Cataldo. I do have All IT Solutions. We're an MSP, but me personally, I got a great family. Got two young boys. I got a wife and range of hobbies that I don't have time to actually dedicate time to, as I'm sure a lot of people can attest to. But yeah.
That's awesome, mate. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining and giving your time up to have this conversation. And it's true, right? I'm a first-time small business owner. You've been doing this for many years. It's certainly not a lifestyle decision or a good lifestyle decision. So, how long have you been doing all IT
All
solutions
IT.
for?
I think it was the 18th of March 2007 we started. So we're getting up there now. Yeah, I started the business all the way back then. I'd worked in the industry for a couple of years, doing sort of IT support and sort of what was the MSP back then. But I sort of started it by chance. I mean, maybe I would have ended up here anyway, but I started university. I left that job that I was working for, and just through natural sort of the way things work, people call you, and it just kind of rolled on. So it kind of started throughout uni, and then I just naturally progressed as I was doing my bachelor's of IT after that.
That's awesome. And so now, what does your organization look like today?
So we're 9 strong.
Wow,
we've got a
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's one of those things that, as you obtain more partners and, you need more people, you need to service those partners. So you just sort of naturally grow. And I suppose I want to grow the business bigger and do some really cool things with it. Who knows where things will go? It's a very dynamic industry and a very dynamic part of the IT market for which who knows what you'll be doing in 6 months' time or 12 months' time. It may really pivot.
And it's a really tough industry as well, right? So congratulations for surviving, because only half of partners do, and surviving for so long and employing now an army of people. That's fantastic. So tell us, where is All IT Solutions based?
So we're in Canberra City, so ACT.
Okay. And what's the a lot of government entities, obviously you're probably small mid-market customer focused. What's the market like down there, or do you have customers around outside of the region?
I mean, all of our partners pretty much base themselves here in Canberra. We are private only, so so we are dealing with the private sector, not for profit. Obviously, we are surrounded by government, which can make it hard from an employment standpoint. It definitely does create a lot of competition for us because we are up against government, and they typically have really big budgets as well. So we support partners outside of ACT. We have partners where, like I said, primarily they're based here in ACT, but they have satellite offices in, say, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria. So sort of all up and down the East Coast there.
That's fantastic. So you talked about hard to get staff or get the right people, or it's competition for government jobs. What are some of the tougher skills for you historically to bring into the business?
Listen, I think you've got to bring. I think you a lot of the time where I've started is I've brought the passion myself. I've sort of brought
Right.
a lot of that drive, and I
Okay.
think finding
And
people
you
that
can feel that energy.
yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you. And but getting that from the others, from the candidates, people that want to work here, sort of, I find there are people that want to work in MSPs, and there are people that
Mm,
sort of want to work in big business. And it's not to say that we think we're better, but it's a very different. They're very different industries. You typically are siloed in those larger organizations, and you get to deal
yeah.
with some pretty cool stuff. Um, but working here, you kind of got to sell it. You got to sell it to your candidate. Why this is a great place, so looking for people with that energy, with that drive, and building that up. Because once you have that sort of foundation, building everything else on top of that comes really quite naturally and quite easily.
So how do you vet for that, right? Because one of the things that I've been learning as a small business owner, whilst I've got a lot of people in our network helping us, it's a few individuals, and so I'm used to having hundreds of individuals to bounce ideas off,
Mm,
and so how do you kind of build that culture in a mid-sized organization, right? Obviously, you said you're hiring for energy, but
mm.
do you have proactive approaches around culture, or is it a key part of that hiring process that then kind of dictates where the culture drives?
Mm. Listen, I think as a small business, and we're winging it, right? Like a lot of other small businesses, we're winging
Yes.
it. We see what works and we see what doesn't work, and we always keep fine tuning the hiring process. Almost every process, you're always just fine tuning
Yeah.
it. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah, I think once again, it's sort of got to be led by yourself, and once people sort of feel that vision, they feel that passion. It's sort of
Mm.
you sort of just keep adding more to the stack, and then you invite them in on interviews yourself, and they can sort of, so it's not just the owner of the business doing the interview. You get
Mm.
some people in to support you. They can go, well, hey, I was once sitting on the other side of that table too, and you sort of bring that along and sort of try to persuade them to come on the journey too, as cliche as that might sound.
So that's awesome. And I love that. When I've always hired people, I always have someone with the team with me and encourage then the potential candidate to also talk one to one with that
Yeah,
individual and tell them, find out what it's like to work for Brad,
yeah, of
and get a first-hand experience, because this is a test of both ways, right? We want to make sure that
course.
we're hiring someone. That's really interesting. How do you manage HR? Because HR is difficult, right? If you've got someone who's disgruntled and they've only got you to deal with, then maybe you're the
Mhm.
reason they're. So how do you manage HR issues in a small business?
Yeah, it's hard. I've actually been very fortunate. We hired someone about a year ago who's been really good for the business. He's
Okay.
taken on a bit more of a leadership role and taken on a
Okay.
slightly more senior role, and it's been very self-led from that individual, which is great because they've really, they identify the areas in the business that go, I think we need this. I think we should be doing that. And it's really sensible stuff because, as the owner, there's only one of you, right? I don't have
Yes.
business partners to share this load, so it's a lot. It is really a lot, and so that's why I think you uh, just to reinforce that idea that you need good people around you, and so HR, that load kind of gets shared a little bit more. So what we're finding now is, we have like a team lead, and obviously in such a small team, that is still quite a dynamic role. But that team lead also has a relationship with the rest of each
Mm.
individual team member as well. So,
Okay.
if they feel maybe a little more comfortable talking with the team lead than maybe talking to myself, I like to think that I'm not a scary guy, but that they can do that and still satisfy the needs of themselves and the business. And yeah,
That's awesome. So you're saying there are 9 in total, including yourself.
yes,
So you have a team lead. Do
yes.
all 7 report into that team lead, freeing up space for you to?
Um, yeah, yeah, it's funny. Well, like I said, it's been a dynamic role, so it's kind of the way
Okay.
that we've seen it go.
Right.
It's kind of naturally gone that way. Um, some of the older team members that have been here for 4 or 5 years plus, they'll probably still come to me, but it does mean that having that team lead is really allowed to free me up, where that individual can then just say, listen, we don't need to bother Anthony for this. This is something we can sort out on our own, or let me sort it out. And it sort of insulates myself, because as all the business owners watching here, especially sole business owners, there's so many things on the plate that you've got to deal with, and that if someone else can do it for you effectively, then hey, why not?
That's awesome. Well, you're very lucky to find someone that you can trust and is willing to have stepped into that role, right? Because it must have been such a big moment in your organization to free up your time. So now you've got nothing to do, Anthony. You've outsourced all your leadership to somebody else. What do you do? What do you do? Where do you spend your time as a result in the business?
Listen, I'm still business development. I wear a lot of hats, but I mean, that's kind of my formal title in a lot of ways of what I do. So I'm sort of dealing with typically inbound sales, if that makes sense. We are looking to hire an outbound BDM at the moment. So we've still got another couple of employees to go with another tech alongside. What else am I doing? I mean, I suppose I'm looking at what are the next steps for us? How can we, the MSP space is a very dynamic space, as I said before. You've got to consistently be on top of all these things. So I like to take a very, I'm very active, like hands-on techie. I do love the tech, and I'd probably say I love the tech just as much as I love the business side. And depending on the week, it switches and changes. But we don't look at, we can't stay stale and stagnant. So like, what's the next thing? How are we providing more value to our partners? What have we got to be doing to keep us relevant, to keep them secure, to keep them more efficient than they were yesterday? So there's all that kind of stuff. You're having meetings with, I like to meet with each of our partners at least once a year. For myself, our relationship manager does that on the regular, but I like to sort of do that. So there's a lot of little things that before you know it, you blink and the day's gone, and you do it all over again.
It's interesting. I find that happens to me a lot at the moment, where my wife will come past because I work from home, office from home, and say, I've got to go pick up the kids from school. And I'm like, really? It's 3 o'clock already? And I'm starting at 6, and it comes so quickly. Really interesting. So many interesting things you just mentioned. So let me unpack some of them. So you said you referred to as inbound sales. So how do you sell today? Is it just by referral, or you got any proactive external engagement to try to acquire new customers?
Listen, there's nothing active sort of outbound. I mean, we know that we have partners that have been with us on managed services agreements since literally 2007, and sort of multiple. So they're long-standing relationships, and our partners, they do stay with us for a long time, and typically, when a partner is no longer a partner, sometimes it's because maybe they haven't grown at the same rate, or maybe our values haven't aligned properly, or maybe they've been purchased by a larger company which has an internal IT team, and you've effectively been made redundant. So we're not really interested in necessarily just trying to obtain more clients, more partners. It really is. It's organic through referral, just website inquiries. We're looking to change MSPs, that kind of thing. And like having a good network of individuals where we refer things to them. Typically, if they don't quite suit us, if maybe a lot of the time it's when they're a bit smaller and it just doesn't make sense for us to be managing their IT. And then sometimes it comes back the other way. So as you refer those partners or prospective partners to someone who's just starting up, then it often comes back as well, where they say, listen, we've got an inquiry, but we can't take on a 50-seat org or something like that. Do you want their details? So yeah, that's kind of how we do it.
So very interesting. So you keep on using the language partners. So when you say partners, are you referring to your end users?
Yeah.
So
We're referring
what?
to the organization that we deal with.
Right, but you don't call them customers. You use the word partnership. Tell me more
Yeah.
about that. It's just I've never
Um,
heard that before. Why are
oh,
you
really?
referring to them as partners?
Well, I mean, it really is a partnership what we're doing. This is
Okay.
not this is not a sort of a, we sell an item and see you later and you may or
Yeah.
may not come back one day. I mean, this is a constant relationship. We meet with you regularly. We know what's happening in your organization. You're giving us information on what's changing in your business on a regular basis. If anything's changing, we want to know about it. If your organization structure is changing, if you're moving offices, we need to know. If anything, like we really need to understand your business and know about it. And so
Mm.
it really is a partnership. And we sort of really started to change that internally, culturally. Once upon a time we sort of called them clients, and every now and again we sort of do. But otherwise, it is a proper partnership. And there's a lot of values that have got to go on to create a successful partnership.
I love it. I think, sometimes we perhaps forget the importance of language.
Mm.
And by using the term partners, it really does define how you see your relationship with, dare I say, your clients or your
Yes,
partners, which is
yes.
fantastic. So you talked a little bit there about the value you provide to your partners. How do you demonstrate? Do you demonstrate value proactively? Like, is it a consistent engagement that you have?
Mm.
I asked you a question under this premise. A lot of MSPs in the market are being squeezed by pricing pressure from the customers, and perhaps they're doing a great job of justifying why they're on a managed service agreement because it's still operating kind of break fixed, even though you've
Mm.
got this term agreement. So, how do you proactively demonstrate value to your partners?
Yeah, listen, it can be hard. And I think an MSP has to, I think the partner itself needs to, your values need to align, right?
Yep.
So if your values don't align, it doesn't work. So
Right.
for instance, if you don't value cybersecurity, if you think that that is just a waste of money, I don't really want it. Well, our values don't align.
Mm,
Um, if you, you know, if you don't have budget, there's no point getting an MSP like us in if
mm,
you say, we actually don't want to spend anything on our IT. We just really want a tick and flick box of saying, um, yeah, we've got IT. We've got someone we can call should something happen. That's not our value. That's not where
mm,
I mean, it makes up part of our offering and our value, but it's not
mm.
the primary reason why someone would engage us. Um, you know,
Okay.
there are other artifacts as well of things like you've got to be polite. You've got to be the same way. We've got to be polite to you. We've got to be respectful. We need it back in return as well. It really is once again, it comes back to this relationship and this partnership. Um, so in terms of demonstrating the value, I mean, this is kind of part of what I do, and that is, every day I wake up and I've got my regimented sort of schedule of checking my subscriptions and checking my emails and newsletters and what's come in and what's new and how can we be adding that value. That value comes into the office at 8:30 in the morning, and I sort of brief the team on what's happening, what's new, what's changed, what can we be going to our partners with, talking to the relationship manager and saying, hey, I think from now on at every sort of catch up with our partners, start talking about this, start talking about these new features or um, elements that have changed or have come into a particular product that we're providing.
It's a tough one to do it though, right? Because the pace of innovation
Mm.
is so quick. And I don't know how tech partners or MSPs get across not just what Microsoft may be doing in the historical context of where how you and I first met, but all these other vendors as well. And so you said that that's part of your morning rhythm, right? Is that what you're doing? You're making sure you're keeping up with the latest feeds. You've got your news articles or vendors that you check in on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think we've got our what we typically call our stack, and any MSP, in my opinion, that doesn't have a stack that aligns with a particular antivirus, if it's not Defender, or a particular email filtering, if it's not Defender, whatever it is, you've got to align to a stack because you cannot keep across all those different vendors and all the different cool things that they may or may not be doing. And so, we've got our stack, we've got our product list, and we've got to keep on top of that. one of the things we've implemented internally is what we call a product champions list, where we split out the stack of not only of all the applications that we use, all the services, all the things we're on selling, what we use internally, and we divvy that out amongst the team. And every quarter we come back together and we say, all right, well, what's changed in the last 3 months on that tool? What's new? What should be implemented? And so we kind of disperse it out, and that's one of the ways that we get to keep on top of changes in the systems for both us internally and also for our partners. So that's one way that sort of eases the pressure, but you do have to scope it down because you cannot be across all the different platforms. For instance, we're pretty heavy in the Microsoft space. We try not to play too far outside of that. It's just a whole nother beast, Google Workspace and all that. It's just a whole nother beast. Microsoft is hard enough to keep on top of. Adding another one of those beasts in there is just a whole nother game.
No, I love it, and it's I say respectfully, that basic construct, right? Know what it is you're selling. Create standardized offerings that you can rinse and repeat. So tell me, you sound like you're providing value well to your partners. Obviously, it's part of the DNA and the language you use. In this high inflationary environment, or even before we were in high inflation, how regularly do you price adjust and communicate that with your customers?
Well, obviously, you've got price adjustments from your vendors passing down. I mean, and that's pretty standard. I mean, it comes down if you're paying an extra 5%, you're passing on an extra 5%. It is what it is. With our partners, we have a standard yearly increase that gets put at the first of every year. Listen, we've chosen a nominal percentage, and listen, most of the time it's probably going to be under CPI or even inflation, but it's something, because I know there's a lot of MSPs out there that don't do it, and you just end up getting this pinch. You end up getting this pinch of wages are going up, people are wanting more money, otherwise they're going to jump ship. Your price to your partners is staying the same, and before you know it, this gap just ends up closing until there's just no profits. I just can't do it. So you do need, which is why we're doing it, a method of moving with it. But it is hard to do, and sometimes you do need to sort of go, all right, well, we do need to have a bit of a correction.
Well, good on you for having that built into your processes and procedures, because I agree with you. Many tech partners simply don't. And then they come to a point where they come under difficulties with staff or profitability, and they wonder why. So good on you.
And I think also, sorry, Brad, I was going to say, I think it's also this idea that we're scared of losing the partner. If we charge that little bit more, the partner might leave. And if we lose that might be 40 grand a year, it might be 50, 60, 70 grand a year, whatever it may be. There's this idea that it might get lost. And I think if you have the right partners and you have a great relationship, I think it's perfectly normal to have that conversation. And we've never lost a partner from a price increase.
Interesting. Maybe a partner you have lost. Have you ever deliberately offboarded a partner? The partnership didn't work. You mentioned earlier whether they might be rude to you or just not aligned in terms of values. I'd love to learn.
Yeah, definitely. We like I said before, we've had those partners that have that haven't. They're too hard to service, right? When they become too small, and maybe they've had a cull, maybe they've split, and the company's now half in size, and they're probably already sort of borderline too small to begin with, and it's just too hard to service, right? Because whether you're a 3-seat org or a 20-seat org, there is still this much work that has to go into both organizations to service them from a foundational level. Support will sort of tick up a little bit, but you've got those situations. But yeah, we have had it where the partners' values don't align. They're just they're not respectful. We've had it where we've basically said, listen, this relationship's not working. you're constantly under high pressure, as in you guys are under high pressure. That high pressure just gets transferred to us, but it's unnecessarily. I mean, it shouldn't pass through down the chain. If there's problems in your business and your upstream providers passing down, that can't pass our way. And it actually has a real detrimental effect on the team. And for me, when something detrimental affects the team, then it affects the business. And as soon as that's at risk, not even just the business. As soon as the team's at risk, really, that's just going to have a flow-on effect to the business. So we just, for lack of a better term, we cut it off at the head and just say, listen, it's just not working. We're just going to have to move on.
Interesting, wonderful insight, and I love that. I love that team first mentality. What would you say is the funnest or the hardest thing about your job? We've spoken about lots of topics today, but what's the thing that motivates you and gets you really empowered? And what's the thing that is just a grind and you find it really difficult?
Listen, I love coming to work, which is I'm probably pretty blessed because I know there's a lot of people out there that work is just a job, but I truly love what we do. And I said before, I love the tech. I also love the business side of things. I come from a family of businessmen, I should say, and so it's sort of ingrained in me, I should say. But I love the art of the deal. I love someone seeing value in what you're providing, and more value than who they were looking at as well. And that is a real rush. I would say, just honestly, the love for tech. I love things getting better. I love things getting more secure.
Okay.
I love new innovative ways of working that are easier. I mean, we come from systems of small business server and how things were done back then, and it's just so different now. But I don't think I could do this if I didn't love tech. I couldn't do this, and if I didn't love business, I probably also couldn't do this.
I love the comment about SBS. I was talking to one of our gurus, Nick Bojar, earlier, and about the journey from that to BPOS and to 365 and beyond. That's really, really interesting. So thank you, Anthony. It's been really, really insightful. I've got one little last curly question for you before we let you go. If you could have any job in the tech industry, any job, anywhere in the world, what would it be, and how would you do it differently?
Oh dear, any job. I'm not good on my feet, Brad. You've really done it to me.
And to everyone watching, this is a question without notice, so you're a brave man for attempting.
It definitely is. Yeah, listen, I don't know. I'm so focused in what I do every day that I really am devoted to this job. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer than that. I can't give you an answer of something a little more entertaining or interesting. But I live and breathe this business, and every day I wake up and just love to be here and just really want to innovate it. So yeah, I'm sorry, Brad. I can't think that quick.
No, it's fantastic. Well, Anthony, we met probably about 15 years ago. I was a BDM for Microsoft. You were doing break fix back in those days, and you've matured this business. But human being to human being, so proud of you of what you've achieved. You can feel the energy and passion you have for your partners and for your team. So absolutely amazing, and we're really grateful you've taken this time to have a chat to our community.
Thanks, Brad. That's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Chat soon, mate.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.